Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful concepts you can apply in relationships. No begging, no chasing, no texting. If you've ever felt desperate to get someone's attention, to fix a relationship, or to get an ex back, then this video is for you. The truth is, when you stop chasing and begging for someone's love, everything changes. But why does this shift work so well? Why does it suddenly make you feel more empowered, and why does it attract the right kind of attention? What we'll cover today, in the next hour, we'll explore the psychology behind why chasing and begging can be damaging, why not texting or chasing can be incredibly attractive, and how this shift in mindset changes the dynamic in your relationships. Whether you're healing from a breakup, navigating a difficult relationship, or just looking to empower yourself, this video will provide actionable steps on how to stop begging, stop chasing, and start living with confidence. The game will change when you change your approach. Part 1. Why begging and chasing don't work. The psychological impact of begging. Let's start by talking about begging. When you beg for someone's attention, affection, or time, it sends a message that you don't believe in your own worth. Begging doesn't just make you look desperate, it lowers your value in the eyes of the other person. Here's the thing. People are naturally attracted to confidence and self-assuredness. When you beg, you're essentially telling the other person that you're willing to compromise who you are for their attention. The desperation trap. Begging often stems from desperation, and when you're in a desperate emotional state, it can cloud your judgment. You may be so focused on the person that you forget to focus on yourself. You lose your sense of identity, and you're constantly in a cycle of trying to get something from someone who isn't giving it to you willingly. Desperation is never attractive. The loss of self-respect. Begging leads to a loss of self-respect. When you're constantly chasing someone and begging for their love, you start sacrificing your own needs. You become so fixated on them that you forget your own worth. You deserve to be with someone who values you as much as you value yourself. When you beg, you give away your power, and that doesn't help you build a healthy relationship. Why chasing creates unbalanced dynamics. Next, let's look at chasing. Chasing someone, whether it's for their attention, love, or approval, creates an unbalanced dynamic. In a healthy relationship, both partners should be equally invested. When you chase someone, you're doing all the emotional heavy lifting. It's a one-sided effort, and no relationship can survive if only one person is putting in the work. The power imbalance. Chasing reinforces the power imbalance. The more you chase, the more you make it clear that you're not a priority. Chasing puts the other person on a pedestal, while you start to shrink into the background. It's not that they're bad or that they don't care about you, it's just that the dynamic has shifted, and now, they hold all the power. How chasing leads to disappointment. When you chase, you create a cycle of disappointment. No matter how much you give, it may never feel like enough. This is because chasing isn't about mutual connection, it's about seeking validation. The more you chase, the more you expect, and the less you get in return. It's a frustrating loop that rarely results in the kind of relationship you want. Part 2. The power of no contact. Why no texting works. Now, let's talk about what happens when you stop texting, chasing, and begging. When you remove yourself from the constant texting cycle, you stop giving away your emotional energy. By not texting or constantly reaching out, you create space and mystery, which often increases attraction. It's not about playing games, it's about respecting yourself enough to know that you don't have to chase someone to get their attention. The art of self-respect. When you stop texting or begging, you're showing that you have a sense of self-respect. You're telling the other person that you're not available to them at their convenience. You're not always going to be there, waiting for them to acknowledge you. This is incredibly powerful because it gives you a sense of control over your own emotions and your interactions. People respect boundaries, and they're more likely to respect you when you set healthy ones. Creating emotional space. Texting or constantly reaching out can overwhelm the other person. It's not just about giving them space, it's about you creating emotional space for yourself. When you stop texting and chasing, You give yourself room to breathe and think. This emotional space allows you to focus on your own life, your passions, and your growth. Psychological shift. The power of indifference. Now, let's dive deeper into the psychology behind no contact and how it shifts the dynamic. When you stop chasing, stop begging, and stop texting, you create a sense of indifference, not in a cold or unfeeling way, but in a way that says, I value myself enough to not chase after someone who isn't showing me the same effort. This subtle shift changes how the other person perceives you. Why indifference is attractive. Indifference can be one of the most attractive qualities in a person. It doesn't mean you don't care, but it means you're not emotionally dependent on their validation. When you're indifferent, you stop acting out of desperation. You're no longer trying to prove your worth to someone, you already know your value. This shift in attitude creates a sense of mystery and curiosity in the other person. Suddenly, they want to know what's going on in your life. They want to know why you're no longer reaching out or texting them all the time. The psychological effect on them. When you pull back, you're no longer giving them the emotional payoff they may have gotten used to. This creates a psychological effect. They begin to wonder why you've stopped texting, why you've stopped chasing. They start questioning whether they've lost your interest or if they took you for granted. In a way, your indifference can spark a deeper interest in them because now, the power dynamic has shifted. You've created a space where they have to work to get your attention, rather than the other way around. Part 3. What happens when you stop chasing? Regaining control and confidence. Now, let's talk about the real transformation that happens when you stop chasing someone. First and foremost, you regain control over your life and emotions. When you stop chasing, you stop giving away your emotional energy to someone who might not be reciprocating. You regain your sense of self and your independence. This shift in mindset helps you feel more confident and empowered. The role of independence. When you stop chasing, you show that you can be happy and content without relying on someone else's approval. This newfound independence boosts your confidence because you're no longer emotionally dependent on the outcome of one relationship. You start to see your life as whole and complete, without needing someone else to fill that void. How this attracts the right people. When you stop chasing, you attract people who are genuinely interested in you. Why? Because you're no longer forcing a connection. Instead, you're creating space for relationships to develop naturally. The people who are right for you will be drawn to your strength, confidence, and independence. They will see you as someone who is emotionally stable and self-sufficient, which is incredibly appealing. The emotional freedom you gain. Stopping the cycle of chasing and texting gives you emotional freedom. You no longer feel like you're at the mercy of someone else's decisions. You stop waiting by your phone for a message or obsessing over when the next conversation will happen. The freedom comes from knowing that you are not emotionally dependent on someone else for your happiness. Not being stuck in limbo. When you're not texting or chasing, you stop feeling stuck in emotional limbo. You're not waiting for a sign from the other person. You're moving forward in your life, focusing on what makes you happy, and building a stronger, more resilient sense of self. Emotional freedom means you're not controlled by anyone else's actions or decisions. Living for yourself, not for validation. This shift in focus is key. When you stop begging, chasing, or texting, you're living for yourself. You're no longer seeking validation from someone who might not be giving it to you. Instead, you're taking ownership of your own emotions, your own happiness, and your own life. Part 4. How to implement this in your life. Setting boundaries. Now that you understand why no begging, no chasing, no texting works, let's talk about how to implement this in your life. The first step is setting clear emotional boundaries. Stop giving away your emotional energy to someone who isn't investing in you equally. This means not texting first, not chasing after them when they pull away, and not begging for their attention. Healthy boundaries in action. Healthy boundaries are about knowing your worth and respecting yourself enough to not chase someone who isn't reciprocating. This doesn't mean you shut down or become cold, it means you stop overextending yourself emotionally. You create a space where the relationship can grow naturally, without forcing it. Focusing on yourself. The next step is focusing on yourself. Invest in your own happiness, your own goals, and your own growth. The more you focus on building yourself up, the less energy you'll have to waste chasing or begging for someone's love. Reconnect with your passions, hobbies, and goals. When you prioritize yourself, you create a magnetic energy that attracts the right people, people who value you as much as you value yourself. Recap and final thoughts. To sum it all up, stop begging, stop chasing, and stop texting. These behaviors might seem like ways to get someone's attention, but they often backfire. When you take a step back, regain control of your emotions, and focus on building a strong sense of self, the game will change. You'll find that the right people will be drawn to you naturally, and you'll start to see relationships shift in ways that align with your true worth. Remember, relationships are about mutual respect, effort, and connection. Don't waste your time chasing someone who isn't putting in the same effort. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need this reminder. Let's start changing the game together, one empowered person at a time.